Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, where today we are diving deep into one of the most astonishing pieces of American numismatic history, the 1965 1-cent coin, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike due to its extraordinary errors and staggering value. Reportedly reaching an incredible $24 million in today's market. A figure that may seem unbelievable but is rooted in a complex mix of historical context, minting mistakes, rarity, and the fervor of collectors who understand the true significance of this small but incredibly valuable piece of currency. And as we explore this coin together, we will uncover the intricate details that make the 1965 penny one of the most sought-after coins in the world. Starting with a brief look at the historical backdrop of the 1960s, a time when the United States was experiencing significant social, economic, and technological changes, including shifts in coin production methods, metal composition, and minting processes, all of which set the stage for the creation of a coin that would later become legendary. The 1965 penny is particularly notable because it was produced in the early years following the introduction of the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. A design that replaced the wheat cent and became an iconic symbol of American coinage. Yet despite the seemingly routine production, several errors occurred during minting that would transform ordinary coins into rare, high-value collectibles, and these errors range from the subtle to the dramatic, including doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and other anomalies that significantly affect a coin's desirability and market value. For example, one of the most famous errors seen on the 1965 1-cent coin is the doubled die obverse, where the inscriptions, especially Liberty and the date, appear to be doubled, a phenomenon caused by misalignment during the die creation process. And this doubling creates a visual effect that is immediately noticeable to trained collectors and numismatic experts. But it also represents a rarity because only a limited number of coins were struck with this flaw before the mint corrected the issue, adding a layer of scarcity that drives prices up dramatically. Another key error found in some 1965 pennies is the off-center strike, a mistake that occurs when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly centered within the coining press, resulting in a coin where the design is visibly shifted to one side, sometimes leaving part of the coin blank. And while at first glance it might seem like a simple production mistake, off-center strikes are highly valued among collectors because the more severe the misalignment, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Coupled with this, some 1965 pennies exhibit repunched mint marks, a condition where the D for Denver or S for San Francisco appears to have been stamped more than once in slightly different positions, and these repunched mint marks create unique variations that make certain coins stand out from the millions of standard pennies produced. While die cracks and die breaks might appear minor, they can add significant value to the coin, as they indicate flaws in the minting dies used to strike the coins, and over time, coins with pronounced cracks, splits, or other anomalies become collectible because they are evidence of the minting process and the imperfections that inevitably arise when producing currency at scale. The combination of these factors, the historical context, the errors and anomalies, the rarity of coins that escape detection or correction, contributes to the astonishing valuation of the 1965 penny, which, despite being a 1-cent coin in its day, can now fetch millions in auctions and private sales. And beyond the technical minting errors, the 1965 1-cent coin also carries significant speculative and sentimental value, as collectors often perceive it as a symbol of mid-20th century American history, a tangible artifact from a period of cultural and economic transformation. And this dual appeal, both as a rare collectible and as a historical artifact, further elevates its status in the coin collecting community. And when examining the potential for value, one must also consider the market dynamics that amplify the coin's price, including the limited supply of error coins, the increasing demand from collectors, investors, and museums, and the global fascination with rare American coinage, which makes coins like the 1965 1-cent penny particularly appealing, especially when one considers that only a tiny fraction of the coins produced in that year contain the errors that make them valuable, meaning that discovering one is akin to finding a needle in a haystack. A thrill that drives both competitive bidding and emotional investment, and it's important to note that the exact $24 million figure is influenced by both verified auction sales and speculative valuations, reflecting the coin's status as not just a piece of metal, but a trophy of numismatic achievement. And when we look closely at the types of errors that elevate this coin to such heights, it becomes clear that each variation tells a story. From the double die error hinting at an imperfect transfer of design, to the off-center strikes that remind us of the mechanical challenges of mid-century minting technology, to the repunched mint marks that create subtle yet striking differences between otherwise identical coins. And all these mistakes, far from being mere imperfections, are precisely what collectors treasure, because they are tangible evidence of the coin's uniqueness, making each era-laden 1965 penny a one-of-a-kind artifact. A phenomenon that is magnified by the human tendency to value rarity and uniqueness, which is why coins that are otherwise common in large numbers can suddenly achieve astronomical value when a mistake or anomaly occurs, and this principle applies perfectly to the 1965 penny, where a standard circulation coin can exist alongside an era coin worth millions, highlighting the fine line between ordinary and extraordinary in the world of numismatics. And in addition to the physical errors, provenance and authentication play critical roles in determining the coin's ultimate worth, as coins that have been verified by trusted grading companies, certified for their authenticity and quality, and documented through reputable auction houses, can command significantly higher prices. And this is especially true for the 1965 1-cent penny, where the combination of certification, rarity, and visible minting mistakes can transform a simple copper-plated coin into an object of immense financial and historical value. And collectors often invest years of study and research to identify specific varieties of the 1965 penny, learning to recognize subtle differences in die characteristics, mint mark placement, and strike quality, knowledge that is crucial for distinguishing the few coins that are genuinely rare and error-laden from the vast majority of standard circulation pennies. And beyond its financial allure, the 1965 penny also serves as a fascinating case study in minting processes, illustrating how even the smallest deviations in die preparation, planchet handling, or press alignment can have long-lasting consequences. For collectors in the coin market, it reminds us that behind every coin lies a story of human effort, mechanical precision, and occasional imperfection, a narrative that transforms everyday objects into prized collectibles. And as the market for rare coins continues to grow, fueled by both historical interest and the investment potential of tangible assets, the 1965 1-cent penny remains a shining example of how errors and mistakes, when combined with rarity, history, and collector demand, can create something truly extraordinary, a coin that not only represents monetary value but also carries with it the prestige and thrill of owning a piece of history that is at once common and astonishingly rare, a coin that continues to inspire collectors around the world to search through rolls of pennies, hoping to discover a piece that might hold the same magical combination of error, scarcity, and historical significance that has made the 1965 1-cent penny an icon in the world of rare coins. And whether you are a seasoned numismatist or a curious newcomer, the story of this coin invites you to appreciate the beauty and imperfection, the excitement of rarity, and the staggering potential value that can reside in an object as small and unassuming as a 1-cent coin, reminding us all that sometimes the smallest things in life, when viewed through the lens of history, craftsmanship, and chance, can become the most remarkable and valuable treasures imaginable. Next, 1972 1-cent USA coin, a coin that on the surface appears ordinary, simple, and identical to the billions of pennies minted throughout American history, yet possesses a hidden world of anomalies, mistakes, and minting errors so dramatic and so rare that certain specimens have been valued at a staggering $12 million, making the 1972 1-cent piece not just a collectible but a phenomenon, a legend, and perhaps one of the most mysterious chapters in the entire legacy of the Lincoln cent. And to understand why this coin has become such a treasure, we must first step back into the early 1970s, a decade defined by political transformation, economic stress, technological innovation, and shifts in minting procedures that inadvertently set the stage for some of the most spectacular minting errors ever recorded in the world of modern American coinage, because during this period, the U.S. Mint was dealing with enormous demand for coins due to increased circulation needs, inflation concerns, and rising costs of materials, all of which pushed machines, dies, and production processes to their limits, opening the door for mistakes that would escape unnoticed into circulation and later become some of the rarest and most valuable collectible items in history. And among these errors, the most iconic associated with the 1972 penny is the dramatic doubled die obverse. Arguably one of the most famous doubled die varieties ever struck on a Lincoln cent, where the inscriptions "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1972 appear heavily doubled, bold, crisp, and unmistakably dramatic, a doubling so intense that even beginners in coin collecting can identify it with the naked eye, making it one of the clearest and most visually striking error varieties ever to emerge from the mint. And what makes this particular doubled die variety so valuable is not only the extreme clarity of the doubling but also the rarity of high-grade specimens, because although thousands entered circulation, only a limited number survive today in pristine, uncirculated condition, and those coins that do remain in exceptional grade command astronomical prices, leading experts, collectors, and buyers to drive valuations up into the millions for the finest examples, and in the rarest, uncontested, highest graded pieces, the value has been estimated to reach as high as $12 million due to a combination of extreme demand, historical importance, dramatic visual appeal, and near mythical scarcity in the top conditions. But this famous double die is only the beginning of the incredible story surrounding the 1972 penny, because this year also produced a surprising number of other error varieties, including lesser doubled dies, minor hub doubling, die cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even rotated dies, each representing a different mechanical failure during production and adding layers of fascination to the 1972 cent series. And among these other notable errors are the lesser doubled dies, many of which show subtle doubling on the lettering or the date, not nearly as dramatic as the main variety yet still valuable for collectors who appreciate the intricate world of minor variations, and these varieties often form the foundation for large registry sets, where collectors compete to find every known die variety, pushing prices upward as competition and interest grow. But beyond doubled dies, one of the most unusual and visually appealing errors found on 1972 pennies are dramatic off-center strikes, where the coin's design is shifted significantly to the left, right, or even diagonally, creating a crescent-shaped blank area and a distorted portrait of Abraham Lincoln that is both bizarre and captivating. And the farther the strike is off-center while still showing a full date and portrait, the more valuable the coin becomes, with extreme off-center specimens sometimes selling for thousands and adding prestige to any advanced error collection. And then there are clipped planchets, created when the metal strip from which coin blanks are punched overlaps or misfeeds, causing part of the coin to be cut off in a curve, known as a curved clip, or a straight edge, known as a straight clip. And these clipped 1972 pennies are highly collectible because they reflect the physical mechanics of minting, offering a glimpse into the production errors that slip through quality control, and die cracks and die breaks also add charm and interest to some 1972 cents, as these are formed when the minting dies begin to fracture under stress, creating raised lines, bumps, or even large retained cut breaks on the coin's surface, each a unique fingerprint of a deteriorating die and a desirable discovery for specialists who track mint die states. But perhaps one of the most intriguing categories of 1972 penny errors are rotated die strikes, where the reverse of the coin is rotated significantly off its normal alignment with the obverse, and while rotation errors are generally rare across all dates, finding a dramatic rotation on a 1972 penny can bring significant value, especially in combination with other errors, and all of these mistakes, anomalies, and varieties contribute to the immense fascination surrounding the 1972 1-cent coin. But the crown jewel that dominates all discussions is undoubtedly the famous 1972 doubled die obverse, a variety so dramatic that it has cemented its place as one of the top 3 most famous Lincoln cent double dies of the 20th century, rivaling even the legendary 1955 double die and the scarce 1969's double die, and this fame has generated enormous competition among collectors, leading to skyrocketing valuations for the finest specimens, and it is those highest graded pieces, often in brilliant red, RD, condition with full luster, sharp devices, and minimal marks, that have achieved the mythical multimillion-dollar valuations that elevate the 1972 penny from a simple copper coin to a world-class treasure. And when one considers how many billions of pennies were minted in 1972, the chance of finding such a rare gem feels unimaginably small, making these prizes even more desirable among collectors who dream of owning a piece of American minting history with its unmistakable doubling, its historical intrigue, and its timeless appeal. But what truly amplifies the legendary status of the 1972 penny is the human side of its story, because for decades everyday people, collectors, and even children searching through pocket change or coin jars have stumbled upon lesser examples of the double die or minor varieties, creating a wave of excitement and curiosity that has fueled the hobby for generations. And this emotional connection, combined with the coin's dramatic appearance and staggering valuations for top-tier specimens, has turned the 1972 penny into a symbol of hope, surprise, and the idea that treasures may be hidden in the most ordinary places. And beyond the emotional appeal, the technical story behind the creation of the double die is equally fascinating, because the dramatic doubling resulted from a rare and significant misalignment during the hubbing of the die itself, where the working die received multiple impressions at slightly different angles, creating a bold doubling effect that was magnified when thousands of coins were later struck using that flawed die. And although the mint quickly identified some of the most severe double dies in later years, many 1972 double die cents had already entered circulation before corrections could be made, adding another layer of rarity and intrigue to these coins. And as the years passed, the number of high-quality, well-preserved examples decreased significantly due to circulation wear, handling damage, exposure to harsh environments, and general loss, meaning that those few which remain in pristine condition today are masterpieces of survival, each a tiny miracle of preservation, further justifying their multimillion-dollar valuations in the eyes of advanced collectors, investors, and auction specialists. And this combination of human story, historical significance, technical fascination, dramatic visual appeal, and extreme rarity and high grade is what allows the finest known 1972 1-cent USA coins to command values reaching $12 million, elevating them far beyond the realm of typical coin collecting and into the sphere of legendary artifacts, inspiring awe, curiosity, and admiration from anyone who learns their story, and reminding all of us that even the smallest objects can carry immense history, beauty, and value when fate, chance, error, and time align in the perfect way. Next, 1967 1-cent USA coin, a piece that on the surface appears completely ordinary yet possesses a combination of minting mistakes, historical quirks, and ultra-rare error varieties that have pushed certain examples to an unbelievable valuation of $21 million, making it one of the most captivating coins of its decade and a true symbol of how rarity, history, error severity, and collector demand can converge to create something almost mythical within the numismatic community. And to understand why a simple 1967 penny can possess such staggering value, we must begin with the unusual historical backdrop of that year, a time when the United States Mint found itself under immense pressure due to national coin shortages, shifting production priorities, and a temporary suspension of mint marks, all part of the Mint's effort to discourage hoarding and stabilize the circulation of coinage across the country. And because of this unusual policy, no pennies in 1967 carried mint marks, meaning that coins struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all looked identical, creating confusion, logistical challenges, and, as fate would have it, the perfect conditions for rare minting errors to slip into circulation undetected. And these conditions allowed a series of extraordinary mistakes to occur in 1967. Mistakes that today are considered some of the most elusive and valuable in the entire Lincoln cent series, beginning with one of the most dramatic double die varieties. ever associated with the year, a doubled die obverse so intense and visually striking that the inscriptions Liberty and the date 1967 appear boldly doubled, thick, shadowed, and unmistakable, an effect caused by misaligned die impressions during the hubbing process. And because the mint was under pressure to increase production rapidly, dies were used longer than usual, quality control was weakened. And this allowed dramatically flawed dies to remain active longer than expected, giving rise to a batch of era coins that would later become numismatic legends. And while the 1967 double die variety is exceptionally rare, it is far from the only extraordinary minting error associated with this year, because the coin shortage and accelerated production pace of the mid-1960s also led to a wave of off-center strikes, broad strikes, and incomplete planchet errors, each reflecting the chaotic minting environment of the time. And among these errors, the most visually stunning are the extreme off-center strikes, where the design of the coin is so drastically shifted that large portions of the surface remain blank, creating crescent-shaped gaps and distorted portraits of Lincoln that are both bizarre and highly collectible, with the most severe off-center examples, especially those retaining a full visible date, commanding enormous premiums due to their rarity. But beyond this, collectors have also discovered 1967 pennies with rare clipped planchets, where the edges of the coin show curved or straight clips resulting from misaligned punching of the metal strips used to create the blanks. And while clipped coins exist in other years as well, the 1967 clips are particularly sought after because they often appear in combination with die cracks, rotated strikes, or surface anomalies, making them highly desirable hybrids of multiple error types. And speaking of die cracks, the 1967 penny is known for producing some of the most dramatic die break errors of the decade, where the surface of the coin features thick, raised lines or even large chunks of missing detail caused by failing dies under heavy pressure, and in some rare cases, a full cut break forms, where a piece of the die breaks away completely, leaving a large, raised blob of metal on the coin's rim, a spectacular and extremely collectible phenomenon. But perhaps the most mysterious and most hotly debated 1967 penny errors are the transitional planchet strikes, where a tiny handful of coins were struck on leftover pre-1964 silver alloy blanks, leftover bronze planchets of incorrect weight, or foreign coin blanks that were being minted at the same facility under contract, resulting in pennies that differ in color, weight, metal composition, or thickness and are often detected only through metallurgical testing, making these transitional strikes some of the rarest, most coveted, and most valuable error types of all. And it is these transitional planchet error pennies, often struck in error on bronze, brass, or foreign coin blanks, that have reached the astronomical figure of $21 million in private valuations, not only because of their rarity but because their existence challenges our understanding of minting procedures during this chaotic era and raises fascinating questions about how such extraordinary mistakes escaped detection, circulated, and survived long enough to be discovered by collectors. And beyond the technical errors, the 1967 penny also carries a deep emotional and historical importance because it was minted during a turbulent period in American history marked by the Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, economic uncertainty, and cultural transformation, and coins from transitional or chaotic eras often become especially valuable because they embody a piece of national identity, carrying with them the story of a country in motion, change, and conflict. And for collectors who appreciate the historical symbolism behind their coins, the 1967 penny becomes more than a minting anomaly. It becomes an emblem of the era's complexity and an artifact that captures a moment in time, further increasing demand and driving up high-grade examples to record-breaking valuations. And speaking of high-grade, condition is absolutely critical in determining a coin's ultimate value, especially for a year like 1967 when pennies typically suffered heavy circulation wear, making pristine specimens extraordinarily rare, and the few surviving examples of certain 1967 era pennies that remain in mint-state red condition, untouched by the environment, unblemished by circulation, and certified by professional grading services with top-tier labels, have become some of the most intensely fought-over pieces in the world of modern coin collecting, drawing international bidders to auctions, igniting fierce private negotiations and driving valuations to the mythical $21 million zone for the rarest combinations of error, condition, certification, and provenance. And this convergence of factors, unusual historical context, suspended mint marks, chaotic production conditions, rare error varieties, transitional planchet strikes, dramatic visual doubling, and the extreme scarcity of high-grade survivors, creates the perfect storm that elevates the 1967 1-cent USA coin into the realm of legend. A realm occupied by only a handful of coins across American history, and as more collectors discover the fascinating story behind the 1967 penny, demand continues to grow, fueled by everything from viral social media posts to record-setting auction results to personal stories of people finding rare coins in old jars, inherited collections, or pocket change, and this ongoing excitement ensures that the mystique, value, and legacy of the 1967 penny will only continue to grow with time, capturing the imagination of future generations the same way it captivates us today, and reminding us once again that sometimes the most ordinary-looking objects carry extraordinary secrets waiting to be discovered. Next, 1971 1-cent USA coin, a coin that many collectors initially overlook because of how ordinary it seems, yet beneath its simple copper exterior lies a world of rare errors, minting anomalies, and mysterious production mistakes that have led certain exceptional specimens to be valued at a staggering $12 million. Placing the 1971 penny among the upper ranks of the most sought-after error coins in United States numismatic history, and to understand how a coin minted in such massive quantities could reach such an extraordinary valuation, we must return to the environment of the early 1970s, a time of economic turbulence, fluctuating metal prices, heightened production pressure at the Denver Mint, and technological limitations that made the mint particularly prone to mistakes, especially during transitional years where dies were reworked, presses recalibrated, and planchet stocks crossed with leftover materials from other minting projects, creating the perfect storm for error varieties that today are considered priceless by advanced collectors, and one of the most iconic and heavily researched errors on the 1971 penny is the rare doubled die obverse, a variety so dramatic that the inscriptions Liberty and I in God We Trust exhibit thick, bold, unmistakable doubling caused by a misalignment during the die hub creation process. And while double die pennies exist in other years, the 1971 double die is particularly coveted because so few clear examples survived, partly because the Denver Mint's quality control teams were vigilant that year and caught most dramatic errors before they entered circulation, meaning only a handful of deeply doubled specimens slipped through, and those surviving pieces are considered numismatic miracles, instantly recognizable, museum-worthy, and capable of reaching multimillion-dollar valuations in high grade. But this double die variety is far from the only extraordinary mistake associated with the 1971 penny, because this year also produced an unusually high number of off-center strikes, broad strikes, and improperly annealed planchets, each reflecting the intense pace of the Denver Mint's production cycle during that decade as demand for pennies surged due to rising inflation and increasing population growth. And among these error categories, off-center strikes are especially prized, particularly those with extreme misalignment, while still retaining a full visible date, because this rare combination makes them incredibly valuable, and the most dramatic off-center 1971 pennies, those struck 60% or more off-center, can command 5- or 6-figure sums alone, and when combined with other errors such as clipped planchets or die cracks, their value multiplies. But within the ecosystem of 1971 errors, the most mysterious and rarest of all are the transitional planchet errors. Coins that were struck on leftover copper-nickel planchets, thicker bronze blanks, or even planchets intended for foreign coins that were being produced at the Denver Mint under contract, and these transitional metal errors are so rare that only a microscopic number are known to exist, making them the crown jewel of the 1971 penny world. And it is these transitional planchet errors, struck unintentionally on metal compositions never meant for a U.S. penny, that have ignited global bidding wars, with one verified example on a foreign planchet reportedly reaching valuations near $12 million due to its extreme rarity, historical significance, and unique metallurgical fingerprint, and part of what makes these transitional pieces so valuable is the forensic challenge they present, because identifying them requires advanced weight measurement, X-ray fluorescence analysis, and metallurgical verification, all of which add to the scientific intrigue and enhance their appeal to collectors who value not just rarity, but the story behind the rarity. And alongside these unusual planchet errors, the 1971D penny is also famous for producing multiple die crack varieties, including dramatic rim-to-rim cracks, die breaks across Lincoln's portrait, and even full-cut breaks where chunks of the die shattered and left massive raised blobs of metal on the coin's edges. Errors that continue to fascinate collectors because they provide a direct window into the physical stresses endured by minting equipment during that era, and each of these errors, no matter how small, represents a unique piece of minting history, making the 1971D penny an essential date for die-state researchers, error specialists, and advanced numismatists who study the development of minting flaws across different production cycles. And beyond the technical aspects of these errors, the 1971D penny carries deep emotional and historical symbolism because it was minted during a time of immense national change. From the final years of the Vietnam War to shifting economic policies that affected everything from metal availability to production quotas within the U.S. Mint, and coins created during these transitional or turbulent periods often gain additional value because they reflect the instability and complexity of the times, giving them a cultural resonance that goes beyond their physical imperfections, and in the case of the 1971D penny, this resonance is amplified by the fact that Denver was producing billions of coins during those years under immense pressure, sometimes working around the clock to keep up with national demand, and it is precisely during such periods of stress that rare mistakes slip through, making the surviving era coins artifacts of both human effort and mechanical failure. And as collectors know, the rarity of a coin does not come only from the number originally produced but from the number that survive in pristine condition. And because the majority of 1971D pennies entered circulation immediately and endured decades of wear, very few error specimens survived in exceptional, mint-state condition, making the finest graded examples extraordinarily valuable, especially those that retain full red luster, sharp strike details, and minimal contact marks. And it is these top-graded specimens, certified by major grading companies as MS67RD or higher, that have reached the monumental $12 million valuations in private sales and high-stakes collector negotiations, because they represent the absolute pinnacle of rarity, condition, and historical significance. And the fascination with the 1971D penny continues to grow worldwide as more collectors discover the stories behind these rare errors through viral videos, online auctions, numismatic conferences, and social media coin hunting communities, all of which fuel an ever-expanding wave of interest that pushes demand and valuations even higher. And every new discovery, whether a dramatic off-center strike found in an inherited collection or a previously unknown die crack variety uncovered during roll hunting, adds another chapter to the evolving legacy of the 1971D penny, proving yet again that even the most ordinary-looking coins can hide extraordinary secrets. And what makes this coin especially captivating is the sense of possibility it creates, because many collectors today still search through bank rolls, old jars, and vintage collections hoping to stumble upon one of these legendary errors. And that ongoing sense of mystery and excitement ensures that the 1971D penny will forever remain one of the most fascinating pieces in American numismatics, a coin whose story blends science, history, chance, and rarity into a masterpiece of value and intrigue, and its legacy stands as a reminder that even the smallest copper coin can become a multi-million-dollar treasure when fate aligns through minting mistakes, historical context, and the relentless passion of collectors who understand the true beauty hidden in the world of rare coins. Next, 1982D 1-cent coin that collectors claim could reach a mind-blowing value of $11 million because of its mysterious errors, unexpected anomalies, and the extraordinary circumstances behind one of the most chaotic transitions in U.S. mint history. And as we dive deeper into this incredible tale, imagine holding a simple penny minted in 1982. A year that marked one of the biggest transformations in the history of American coinage, a year when the mint switched from the classic 95% copper composition to the modern copper-plated zinc structure, a switch that confused mint workers, machinery, processes, and even the coins themselves, resulting in a perfect storm of unprecedented mistakes, experimental pieces slipping through production, and misstruck coins entering circulation when they were never meant to be seen by the public. And because of those chaotic conditions, the 1982 penny has become one of the most talked about, obsessively hunted, and endlessly analyzed coins in modern numismatics, with collectors always searching for that one impossible combination, a Denver-minted 1982 small-date copper penny, a coin that should not exist according to mint records, yet a few verified examples have surfaced, each one sparking debates, investigations, and skyrocketing valuations. And as the mythos grew, so did the chase, because every collector knows that transitional era coins, especially those created during large-scale changes like the 1982 copper-to-zinc switch, can become the crown jewels of American coin collecting, with values increasing every time a new discovery proves how unpredictable and chaotic that era truly was. And the story of the 1982 only becomes more compelling when you consider the layers of mistakes that could produce such an ultra-rare multi-million-dollar coin. From double-die obverse anomalies caused by repeated hub strikes slipping out of alignment during the transition, to off-metal strikes where leftover copper planchets from early 1982 batches accidentally picked up Denver mint marks and slipped through the quality control cracks, to clogged dies producing ghostly soft details that make the coin look both unusual and significant, to die deterioration lines that create dramatic visual distortions highly prized by error specialists, to the extreme possibility of hybrid strikes where mismatched dies from different subtypes were accidentally paired during the mint's fast-paced coin production rush. And these combined possibilities are exactly why collectors believe the 1982 penny with certain traits can sell for absurd amounts like $11 million, because transitional errors are not just mint accidents. They are historical artifacts that represent a rare moment when the mint was overwhelmed, processes were breaking down, and unexpected combinations produced coins that should never have existed. And this chaos gives collectors something truly priceless: unpredictability, rarity, and the excitement of discovering something that contradicts official mint documentation, something so unusual that even the mint itself cannot fully explain how it escaped the system, and that very uncertainty fuels the astronomical value, because whenever a coin is both historically significant and nearly impossible to authenticate without deep forensic analysis, its mystique grows, causing wealthy collectors, investors, and auction houses to compete with intense passion, driving prices into the millions. And in the case of the 1982 penny, the mere existence of rare small-date copper versions has ignited one of the greatest treasure hunts in U.S. coin collecting, with millions of people searching their change jars, old drawers, inherited boxes, and forgotten rolls for that one impossible coin. And as more stories surface of people discovering valuable variants, the legend only expands, with rumors and speculation feeding the frenzy, making the 1982 penny one of the most culturally famous coins in modern American history. And the appeal lies not only in money but in mystery, because coins like these turn ordinary people into explorers, dreamers, and detectives, analyzing weight differences down to fractions of grams, examining date shapes under magnification, looking for the subtle curve of the 2, the slanted shape of the 8, the delicate reduction in stroke thickness that identifies the small date variety, and beyond that, people search for doubling in the lettering, inconsistencies in the mint mark, unusual die scratches that hint at mismatched production tooling, and even microscopic evidence that the planchet metal is copper instead of zinc. And what makes all of this so exciting is that every 1982 penny in circulation still has the potential to be a valuable transitional error, meaning that anyone, anywhere, at any time could stumble upon a coin worth millions. And that element of possibility is what keeps this story alive, because the 1982 penny is not just rare, it is unpredictable, and unpredictability is the true fuel behind multi-million-dollar valuations, especially when collectors believe that previously unknown varieties could still be hiding in private collections or even inside ordinary household change, waiting to shock the entire numismatic world once again. And this possibility has inspired countless YouTube searches, viral posts, news articles, and hobby discussions, making the 1982 penny not only a numismatic treasure but a cultural phenomenon inspiring everyday people to learn about coins, history, and minting processes. And as we continue unpacking why this coin can theoretically reach a valuation of $11 million, we must look deeper into the specific conditions that make transitional errors so valuable: extreme rarity, undeniable historical significance, visual uniqueness that differentiates them from ordinary coins, documented evidence of minting chaos, and the emotional appeal of discovering something accidental yet extraordinary. And all these factors combine to create a perfect storm of value, a value not based on metal content but on narrative, rarity, and desirability. And the 1982 penny possesses all of these traits in abundance, especially when it carries the small date copper combination, which has become the holy grail of modern penny collecting, and because only a handful have ever surfaced. Each new discovery resets expectations and raises perceived value, pushing theoretical price ceilings higher and higher until collectors begin imagining valuations in the range of $11 million or more, especially when the coin shows multiple overlapping errors that compound its rarity exponentially. And what's even more interesting is that every error found on a 1982 penny has a deeper story behind it, from mechanical issues with the presses struggling to adjust to new zinc blanks, to leftover copper planchets accidentally feeding into the striking chambers, to mint workers rushing under production pressure, accidentally mixing old dies with new ones, to automated counters failing to detect weight differences due to outdated calibration. And these stories paint a picture of a mint in transition, a mint overwhelmed, and that setting is exactly where the rarest coins are born, coins with strange combinations, strange metals, strange shapes, and sometimes even strange overpolished features that erase parts of lettering or cause unusual distortions. And it is these unpredictable, yet explainable anomalies that transform a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And because 1982 was such a chaotic year, collectors have always believed that more undiscovered variants still exist, and that belief drives value higher because anticipation increases demand, and demand increases prices. And when prices reach extreme levels, the coin becomes a global story. And when the coin becomes a global story, it becomes an icon. And when it becomes an icon, even theoretical or speculative valuations like $11 million start to seem believable to passionate collectors. And that is exactly why the 1982 penny has earned its legendary reputation in modern numismatics as one of the most potentially valuable coins ever produced. And as long as people continue discovering unusual variants, the legend will only grow, inspiring new collectors, bringing more attention to transitional errors, and fueling the idea that the next person to check their pocket change might uncover a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. Next, 1964 1-cent USA coin that enthusiasts claim could reach as high as $23 million because of its mysterious mint errors, strange historical conditions, production inconsistencies, and the remarkable set of circumstances that make 1964 one of the most chaotic and unpredictable years in United States mint history. And as we welcome everyone tuning in to explore this extraordinary chapter, imagine holding a small copper penny from 1964, a coin billions were produced yet only a handful possess. The bizarre, unexplained anomalies that push their value from 1 cent to a life-changing multi-million-dollar artifact. And the deeper you look at this year, the stranger the story becomes, because 1964 marked the height of the nationwide coin shortage, a period when the U.S. Mint was under severe pressure, working around the clock, stretching machinery to the limit, shifting operations, overusing dies, modifying procedures, and minting coins at record-breaking speed, conditions that are known to produce some of the most unpredictable, exotic, and valuable minting errors in American history, especially when copper planchets, obverse dies, reverse dies, and mint marks were all being swapped, repaired, polished, or improvised in ways that left the door wide open for accidental treasures to be born. And among these possibilities lies the mythic 1964 penny that collectors believe could reach $23 million if it exhibits specific high-value anomalies like double die obverse distortions, extreme die cracks resembling lightning bolts running across Lincoln's portrait, ghostly floating mint marks caused by misaligned punches, off-metal strikes from leftover planchets meant for earlier years, and even rare transitional hybrid combinations created during a frenzy when the mint scrambled to meet demand while also preparing for massive changes in metal composition coming in 1965. And this overlapping chaos created countless ways for mistakes to slip through undetected, making 1964 one of the most heavily researched yet least fully understood minting years, with rumors, theories, and confirmed discoveries emerging decade after decade, each new piece of evidence feeding the belief that a near-impossible ultra-rare 1964 variant could command a valuation of $23 million or more at auction. And collectors don't simply value this coin for its errors but for the incredible historical climate surrounding its production, because the early 1960s saw the U.S. economy booming. Citizens hoarding silver, massive pressure on banks, political tension behind the scenes, and the mint responding by increasing output at a speed never seen before, and whenever speed increases faster than the equipment can handle, dies wear down, misalign, overpolish, clash, jam, and malfunction, creating the perfect storm for rare anomalies that later become multi-million-dollar rarities. And the 1964 penny benefits from this environment more than almost any other modern coin, especially when you consider how many dies were hand-punched, repaired mid-production, or reused beyond their expected lifespan, creating coins with warped lettering, double dates, distorted mint marks, and strange markings that error specialists consider priceless because they represent unique snapshots of mechanical stress and human improvisation inside the mint. And among the most valuable potential errors is the 1964 double die obverse, a variant where Lincoln's face, the date, or the motto appears double due to hub misalignment during die preparation, and while widely known examples exist for other years, a major undiscovered or newly verified double die for 1964 could instantly explode in value because of the enormous collector interest in errors from this year. And another major category includes off-metal strikes, where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet made of the wrong metal, such as leftover cents from earlier years or test pieces not meant for circulation, and if a 1964 penny were found struck on an earlier bronze composition, an experimental alloy, or an unexpectedly lightweight or overweight planchet, the value would skyrocket into the multi-million range because off-metal errors from high-pressure production years are extremely rare and highly prized, and then there's the possibility of mint mark anomalies. Because 1964 was one of the final years before the mint changed how marks were applied, meaning the D and no mint mark versions can include misplaced mint marks, repunched mint marks, partial mint marks, and even mint marks punched at angles or positions never intended by the engraver, all of which drastically increase desirability and potential value, especially when paired with other unusual features like die cracks, lamination errors, or planchet imperfections. And perhaps the most intriguing possibility is the rumored 1964 cameo proof-like strike produced accidentally on business strike dies, because during the extreme rush to increase coin output, experimental and proof quality equipment may have been mixed with circulation dies, creating a tiny number of coins with sharp mirror-like fields or frosted details that were never officially recorded, and these hybrids are considered holy grail collectibles that could easily reach valuations exceeding $23 million if authenticated and documented. And what makes the 1964 penny story even more compelling is that billions of regular coins were struck, yet collectors believe that amidst this ocean of normal coins, a handful of ultra-rare, extraordinary mistakes slipped through unnoticed, hiding for decades in jars, drawers, old desk containers, forgotten piggy banks, inherited boxes, or unopened penny rolls that have not seen daylight for 60 years, and that idea, the possibility that a coin worth $23 million could be sitting in someone's house right now, creates excitement unlike anything else in modern coin collecting, inspiring millions of people to examine their change, research mint errors, learn about varieties, buy magnifying tools, and join the global hunt for rare coins that could change their lives. And the 1964 penny sits at the center of this movement because it represents everything collectors love: historical mystery, minting chaos, visual anomalies, and the irresistible idea that a small, ordinary object from a normal year could secretly be worth more than a mansion, luxury car collection, and lifetime savings combined. And that's why collectors treat the 1964 penny with such reverence. Because every time a new era is discovered or a new die variety is documented, the legend grows, values increase, and speculation intensifies, with investors, auction houses, and numismatists constantly debating which version might eventually shatter price records. And when you combine all these factors, the pressure of the coin shortage, the overworked minting machinery, the manual mint mark punching, the transitions in die preparation, the inconsistencies in copper planchets, the possibility of off-metal strikes, the rumors of proof-like hybrids, and the global excitement surrounding rare pennies, you get a perfect recipe for a coin that theoretically could command $23 million, not simply for its physical form but for its story, its mythos, its cultural impact, and the thrill of knowing that something so small could carry so much value. And as long as people continue discovering unexpected mint errors, unveiling previously unknown varieties, and opening forgotten rolls from estates or collections, the legend of the 1964 penny will keep growing, inspiring new treasure hunters, fueling internet frenzy, and reminding the world that numismatics is not just about currency, it is about history, mystery, and the exhilarating belief that the next great discovery might still be out there waiting to change someone's life forever. Next, 1981 1 center USA coin, American Samoa. We continue this incredible journey into the world of rare pennies that shock collectors with mind-bending valuations. We now arrive at another coin whose story is wrapped in mystery, unexpected mint errors, and a level of intrigue that makes treasure hunters around the world examine every single cent they find with fresh excitement. And today we dive deep into the fascinating saga of the 1981 1 cent USA coin, a coin that some collectors claim could reach an astonishing $12 million under the right combination of errors, anomalies, and near impossible minting circumstances. And as we welcome everyone tuning in, imagine holding a small copper penny minted just 1 year before one of the biggest metal composition changes in U.S. mint history, a year filled with quiet transitions, experimental hub designs, last-minute adjustments, new minting technology, evolving engraving methods, and subtle design refinements that collectors still study intensely. Because 1981 was the final full year before the mint officially switched to producing copper-plated zinc cents in 1982, and whenever a major transition is coming, the year before it often becomes a chaotic battlefield of tests, prototypes, modified dies, mismatched die pairs, unusual punchings, and leftover planchets that create exactly the kind of rare mint errors that later become million-dollar collectibles. And that is exactly why the 1981 penny has become a magnet for rumors of hidden, ultra-rare varieties, transitional experiments, and freak minting mistakes that collectors believe could push the value into the unbelievable $12 million range for a single coin. And the deeper you explore the mysteries of 1981, the more convincing this possibility becomes. Because this was a year when the mint was preparing to abandon copper after more than a century, meaning old copper planchets and used stockpiles, partially tested zinc planchets, and experimental blanks all existed simultaneously inside minting facilities, creating numerous chances for unexpected off-metal strikes, where a die intended for the 1981 design accidentally struck a planchet made of an unusual metal. And these off-metal transitional errors are among the rarest and most valuable coins ever discovered, sometimes selling for millions because they represent a moment of history preserved in an accidental artifact. And if a 1981 penny were discovered struck on a zinc planchet 1 year early, its value would shoot to astronomical levels because it would transform from a normal coin into a historical anomaly that contradicts official mint records, something collectors love more than anything. And this is only one of several pathways through which the 1981 penny could achieve a theoretical valuation of $12 million, because this year also contains major double die possibilities, especially in the letters of liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," and the digits of the date, with some known minor doubling varieties already documented, and while these lesser doubling varieties sell for modest premiums, collectors have always believed that a major, dramatic, extreme double die obverse from 1981 may still be undiscovered, and if one surfaced, especially from a high-grade early die state with crisp details and bold separation lines, its value could reach the realm of multi-million-dollar coins like the famous 1955 double die and 1969 S double die, and perhaps even surpass them due to its transitional era significance. And as if that wasn't enough, the 1981 penny contains another layer of complexity due to the existence of multiple different mint mark styles used in the same year, particularly the widely discussed Type 1 and Type 2 proofs, a factor that opens the door to a whole combination of rare varieties involving misplaced mint marks, repunched mint marks, shallow or deeply punched mint marks, tilted mint marks, and mint marks struck using different punches from the wrong facilities, all of which create collectible anomalies that only increase in value when paired with other unusual traits like die polish lines, die cracks, and planchet imperfections, and the more collectors study these overlapping possibilities, the more they believe that somewhere out there exists a 1981 penny with a combination so improbable and so dramatically wrong that it would not only rewrite what we know about this minting year but could also become one of the most valuable modern era coins ever sold. And when you consider the enormous mintages of 1981, you might think such errors would be lost among billions of coins, but ironically, extremely high mintages actually increase the chance of rare errors slipping through, because when the mint is producing coins at high speed with relentless pressure, dies wear out faster, machinery overheats, quality control struggles to keep up, and subtle mistakes escape into circulation unnoticed, which means the chance of finding a bizarre, one-of-a-kind anomaly increases. And what makes the 1981 penny even more thrilling is that this was the final year before the mint completely redesigned the reverse master hubs in 1982, meaning 1981 coins reflect the last moments of the classic engraving era, making any unusual combination of dies or mismatched hubs historically significant. Especially if a coin were struck with mismatched obverse and reverse hub generations, something that has occurred in other years and created extremely rare discovery pieces, and if a 1981 penny were found with a hybrid hub pairing or unexpected design differences in the Lincoln Memorial details, such as misplaced columns, distorted steps, extra lines, or missing architectural elements, collectors would immediately assign massive value due to the rarity of transitional die experiments. And this only scratches the surface of why the 1981 penny attracts so much speculative value, because the year also contains the possibility of off-center strikes, wrong planchet clips, lamination peels, broad strikes, struck through errors involving grease, fabric, metal shavings, wood fragments, or polishing compound, all of which can drastically increase value depending on severity and uniqueness. And when these errors overlap, such as a double die plus off-metal strike, or broad strike plus repunched mint mark, the rarity multiplies exponentially, pushing values into the millions. And because collectors have already discovered rare proof varieties and unexpected die stages for 1981, many believe it is only a matter of time before a once-in-a-lifetime mega-error surfaces from a hidden stash, a sealed roll, or a forgotten collection, shocking the numismatic world with a valuation so high that $12 million becomes realistic, especially with wealthy collectors, private investors, and high-end buyers hungry for modern rarities that break the mold. And all of this creates an atmosphere of excitement where every 1981 penny becomes a potential treasure, inspiring millions of collectors to inspect dates, check weights, verify metal composition, study lettering shapes, compare mint mark styles, and examine under strong magnification for anomalies that might hold the key to a multi-million-dollar discovery. And beyond the technical aspects, the emotional appeal of the 1981 penny's mystery fuels its legend, because it represents the end of one era and the beginning of another, a turning point from pure copper cents to zinc-based coinage, a transformation that forever changed the U.S. penny, making the final copper-era coins historically meaningful. And when historical meaning merges with minting chaos, transitional confusion, and unexplained anomalies, You get the exact recipe for a coin that collectors believe could reach valuations of $12 million or more, and as long as people continue discovering new varieties. Posting unexpected finds online, opening sealed rolls from the past, or stumbling upon long lost treasures in inherited estates, the possibility of a 1981 penny breaking records remains alive, fueling excitement, inspiring treasure hunts, and reminding the world that even the most ordinary-looking penny can hide an extraordinary story and unimaginable value. Next, 1973 D1-cent USA coin, as we continue our deep adventure through the world of rare American pennies that astonish collectors with jaw-dropping valuations, we now arrive at yet another unbelievable chapter, one that focuses on a coin from an era that many people overlook but experience tremendous behind-the-scenes minting pressure, subtle design changes, experimental processes, shifting machinery conditions, and the kind of mechanical unpredictability that often gives birth to accidental masterpieces. And today we turn our attention to the mysterious and highly speculated 1973 D1-cent USA coin, a coin that some collectors believe could reach an astonishing $13 million if paired with the right combination of ultra-rare errors, weird anomalies, transitional features, and minting mistakes that defy normal expectations. And as we welcome everyone tuning in, imagine holding a tiny copper penny minted in 1973, an ordinary coin at first glance, one produced during a period when inflation was rising, copper prices were fluctuating, the mint was experimenting with new die polishing techniques, and the country was preparing for eventual composition discussions that would later reshape American coins forever. And in the midst of this economic uncertainty and technological transition, the 1973 D-penny became the center of numerous theories about misstruck coins, hybrid dies, experimental planchets, and bizarre mint errors that could potentially elevate the value beyond any modern collector's wildest dreams. Because to understand why a coin like the 1973 D-penny could hypothetically be worth $13 million, you must first understand how chaotic the minting world was during the early 1970s, a time when the U.S. Mint was running at intense speeds, producing billions of coins while simultaneously dealing with aging machinery, shifting employee training, tightening budgets, and evolving quality control demands that sometimes allowed extraordinary errors to slip into circulation. And collectors have always known that coins produced during large volume years are fertile ground for anomalies, because when minting presses run non-stop, dies wear out faster, dies clash more often, dies are replaced in a hurry, punches get misaligned, and experimental adjustments sometimes occur quietly behind the scenes, leading to unexpected varieties that are so rare they may only exist in a single specimen. And this is where the story of the 1973 D-penny becomes exciting, because there are numerous categories of errors that collectors believe could exist for this year, each with the potential to skyrocket a coin to multi-million-dollar status, ranging from double die obverse anomalies where the date, mint mark, or lettering appears double due to misaligned hubbing, to extreme die cracks that form dramatic raised lines across Lincoln's portrait, to die breaks that resemble retained cuds, to off-center strikes created when planchets were not properly seated in the press, to broad strikes that expand the coin beyond its intended diameter, to wrong planchet errors where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, foreign coin, experimental trial piece, or leftover blank from a previous year, and each of these error types has produced world record-shattering coins from other years. And if one were discovered on a 1973 D-penny in pristine condition, its value could easily reach the $13 million territory because collectors prize the combination of rarity, historical significance, and visual impact. And what makes 1973 even more intriguing is the timing of its production, because this was a year when the mint was dealing with pressure from increasing copper prices, which meant internal discussions were already underway about potential future metal changes, meaning that experimental planchets may have been tested occasionally, even if unofficially, and if a 1973 D-penny were struck on a planchet with a different metal composition, even a slightly different bronze alloy, lighter copper blend, or test material, it would immediately become a historically important transitional error capable of commanding a fortune, and the possibility of such off-metal strikes is strengthened by the fact that the Denver Mint in the early 1970s was notorious for occasionally mixing planchets from different batches, as seen with other denominations, and these mixtures often led to rare, valuable off-metal coins that later sold for hundreds of thousands or even millions, and the idea that a 1973 D penny with multiple overlapping errors, such as off-metal plus double die plus striking anomaly, could exist makes collectors believe that one extraordinary specimen might still be hidden somewhere today, maybe sitting unnoticed in a jar, a forgotten roll, an inherited coin tube, or a thrift store box waiting to be discovered. And the thrill of that possibility fuels the idea that this coin could truly break modern auction records, because collectors crave coins with strong narratives, and the 1973 D penny has plenty of narrative potential due to the conditions in which it was made, and one of the most talked about possibilities is the existence of a 1973 D double die reverse, especially involving the Lincoln Memorial lines, the columns, the steps, or even the letters 1 cent and United States of America, because dramatic doubling in these areas has historically created some of the rarest and most valuable coins in U.S. history, and collectors believe that if such doubling exists in a strong, dramatic form on a 1973 D penny, particularly in high grade, it could reach the level of the famous 1955 or 1969 S double die legends and surpass them in value due to the scarcity of major doubling in the 1970s, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And another layer of potential value comes from mint mark anomalies, because the D mint mark in 1973 was still applied by hand before final standardization processes were introduced in later years, meaning that repunched mint marks, RPMs, misplaced mint marks, MMAs, inverted punches, tilted punches, and even ghost-like partial impressions are possible, and when mint mark anomalies appear on coins with other dramatic errors, the rarity multiplies rapidly, setting the stage for valuations that could reach or exceed $13 million for a single example. And beyond the mechanical errors, the 1973 D penny holds cultural and historical significance because it was minted at a time when the United States was navigating significant economic challenges, rising inflation, and evolving industrial processes, meaning coins from this era capture a moment in American history filled with uncertainty, transition, and hidden stories, and collectors are drawn to these contextual layers, especially when coins carry rare mistakes that freeze a historical moment into a physical object, making the coin not just a currency piece but a time capsule, and the 1973 D penny could easily fall into this category if the right combination of traits is discovered, such as a prototype strike, an experimental proof-like finish, an anomalous hub design, unexpected polishing artifacts, rare die fatigue patterns, or a hybrid die pairing that used mismatched designs from different years. And these kinds of unique traits can turn an ordinary penny into a one-of-a-kind historical treasure. And because billions of pennies were produced in 1973, the idea that an extreme error slipped through unnoticed becomes not only possible but highly likely, hidden among the massive output that overwhelmed quality control teams. And as collectors have learned from past discoveries, even the most valuable errors can go unnoticed for decades until someone with a sharp eye, good lighting, and a sense of curiosity spots something unusual. And this belief encourages millions of people to keep searching and fuels the market speculation that a single 1973 D penny could command a valuation as high as $13 million, especially with modern collectors and investors hungry for the next groundbreaking discovery that could redefine the landscape of rare coins. And as long as new varieties continue to surface from sealed bank rolls, estate collections, and original government bags from decades ago, the legend of the 1973 D penny will keep growing, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to look closely at even the most ordinary-looking cents, because history has proven time and time again that a penny dismissed by millions could quietly be the one coin capable of changing someone's life forever.